Welcome to the iPad Possibilities Podcast, episode number 36, Weekly Thought, Emulators. Before we get the show off and running, I'd like to thank once again the sponsor of this podcast, the application developers for It's On My Way. It's on the App Store now for $2.99, so grab it today to help plan out your afternoon as you do all of your errands. So grab it today. It's called It's On My Way, and thanks again for sponsoring the show. Well, welcome once again to the iPad Possibilities Podcast. I'm Tim, and I'm your host of this show. And today I thought a great topic would be emulators for the Weekly Thought episode. And the reason I thought this would be good to cover is it's a good reason why many people should jailbreak their iPads. And that is the ability to play Nintendo games, Sega games, PlayStation games, N64 games, all sorts of extra games that you won't find in the App Store, and you'll actually be able to hook up external controllers like a Wiimote to actually play your games by using Bluetooth and all the things that jailbreaking offers. So I want to give everybody my opinions on emulators, how well they work on the iPad, how easy it is to get into emulators and start playing games with this. So that's what today's topic will be, and I hope you enjoy the show. So emulators, for those that don't know what they are as they sound, they emulate what the original console, what the original gaming system did. So for instance, I've got a few different emulators on my jailbroken iPad. Now these are all designed, or were designed for the iPhone. So you have to upscale them. They upscale very nicely, but I've got N64 iPhone. I've got NES for iPhone, I've got SNES for iPhone, I've got Genesis for iPhone, and I have PSX for iPhone. So those are the emulators I have, and as you can probably tell by the names, I've got N64, Nintendo Entertainment System, Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis, and PlayStation emulators. And they run extremely well. Some of them are a bit laggy, which was disappointing. The best emulators I've found so far have been for N64 and for Super Nintendo. Surprisingly, NES, at least in my findings, ran too slow to be usable. It was kind of bizarre. SNES and N64 actually ran better for me than NES. If you guys are finding different findings than me, please let me know, because I'd love to fix it however it's being run wrong. But those are the best two I've found so far, and they run extremely well. And the process of doing this is very simple. Once you've jailbroken your iPad, which is pretty easy to do, you just go into either the Rock Store or Cydia and search for those apps. You can just search for N64 or NES or SNES, and you'll have free trials with all of these. The prices kind of vary from just a few bucks to, I think, $7 is the high end. But I think the best one out so far is for SNES, and that's because it gets full screen mode, it's got support for the Wiimote, the frame rates are really good, and it's got a great way where within the app itself, you're actually able to download ROMs, which are basically just games, and I wouldn't, it's not entirely legal unless you own the game, but so I'm not going to talk about all that kind of stuff, but just putting that warning tag on it. But it's very easy. They've come a long way since I remember back with the original iPhone. Before the App Store was even around, before any of that was around, people jailbroke their iPhones because that was the only way you had apps on there. And one of the coolest things I remember about that was you could put the Nintendo Entertainment System emulator on your iPhone, and you were playing Mario Brothers and all sorts of awesome games. And it's very cool to see how far they've come. They now have, Genesis and Super Nintendo on there, and you're actually able to download games from within the app itself by hopping in their built-in web browser. And it's a very easy process to do that, and you're often playing within minutes. And it's really amazing how they've done it. And many people may be wondering how this all works with, they've heard about this Wiimote, but they haven't heard really how it all works together and how it all plays together. And I have to say, it was a very easy process of getting it all set up. Really, all you have to do is tell the application. Most support these, some do not. For instance, Genesis and PlayStation both do not support the Wiimote, But for the ones that do, it's very easy. Just go in settings, say, yes, I want support for the Wiimote, and then just exit the app and reboot it. And on that launch screen, it'll now start searching for your Wiimote. So all you do is hold down the 1 and 2 button on the Wiimote towards the bottom there. Just hold it down and it'll start pairing. And within a few seconds, really, it'll be paired to your iPad. And you're off and running and playing games on your iPad. Now, a quick note, you should turn off your Bluetooth before you enter the app. It turns it on and does some magic and all that. But it works extremely well. There's not much lag at all with the controller and the iPad. And I find myself in the N64 app playing Mario Kart and all sorts of other games with this Wiimote. And it's a great experience because you can just have the iPad in vertical or horizontal mode and you're just playing just your traditional console games. So, as many people know, the games for the App Store are very well designed, very enjoyable. They're much more advanced than the games that you'll find probably in the emulators because they were for older systems. But you will get some great classics out of those emulators. There's a great SNES app that has pretty much all the Mario games in there. And it's a great little game that it brings a lot of nostalgia back to the gaming platform, gaming feel of the iPad. So I thought this would be great to cover. And if you guys have questions, I'd love to hear what your questions are as far as emulators. I have found they're not perfect. Some crash, some don't run the best. My hopes is that people will start to write apps, write emulators that are designed especially for the iPad, because these are all designed for the iPhone right now. So none of these have been optimized or anything like that, but as it stands, they run really well. I should note that the N64 app, for instance, only runs in the vertical mode, so that you actually have half the screen devoted to controls even when the Wiimote is attached. So that's kind of a downer. But my recommendation is, this is a great reason to jailbreak your iPad. You're able to run my favorites were N64 and SNES because they run so well, and you're able to download games directly to it, and they run extremely well. And the support for the Wiimote is really what pushed me over the edge. I actually the Wiimotes run $40, and they just run off rechargeable batteries and rechargeable AA's, and it paired extremely well, and it's a great reason to buy have an iPad and use it to game on it, right? So I thought this would be a great, weekly thought topic to just discuss emulators. I think there's great potential there as far as the future of what other emulators could come. Imagine a future where we have future iPads which are faster, which could potentially run Xbox emulators and some more advanced things. I could see that being pretty amazing. So please send your thoughts and feedback as far as what you think about emulators, and are you jailbreaking your iPad, and have you tried this out yet, or what's your thoughts and feedback regarding that? You can do that at the voice line at 209-542-iPad. Those last 4 digits are 4723. And you can also email in at iPadPossibilities@gmail.com. So please send in all your feedback there, and I'd really appreciate it if you do that. To conclude the show, I'd like to just mention some places you can find me online. First off, I am on Twitter at TCHATEN. So if you want to follow me there, I talk about all things iPad on my Twitter feed there. And if you're a Mac user, I was recently on the International Mac Podcast. So you can find that at iampodcast.tv. I was on episode 107, Educate Yourselves. So check out that. There's a lot of iPad discussion there, as well as some other Apple and Mac talk there. And also a recommendation I have is check out Victor Kakiao's latest episode of The Typical Mac User. He and George Starcher have a use case episode of the iPad, and they go into a lot of great things there. So check out that episode at typicalmacuser.com, and a lot of great insight there. So check all those places out. Finally, wrapping up the show, I'd like to just mention all the places you can go to support this show. First off, you can do that just for free at iTunes by subscribing to the show. And really, reviewing the show is of great help. It helps others know what you think about the show, and just brings the visibility of the show on iTunes so others can appreciate the show as you have. And monetarily, there's a couple different ways you can do that to support the show. First off, the premium show is a great way to support the show. It's $2 a month, and if you just go to thepossibilitiesnetwork.com, you can find out all the information there. And with that version of the show, you'll get free, basically ad-free version of the show. So this part of the show will be out of it, and sponsors and all that, they're gone from the premium version of the show. So that's one feature of the premium show. You also get them 24 hours early, like the podcast app, so Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And you'll get extra episodes both in the video realm and the audio realm. So a lot of great things. You can check it out at thepossibilitiesnetwork.com. And just go to the iPad Possibilities premium page, and you'll find out all the information you need to there. You can also, to support the show, purchase the iPad Possibilities podcast app for $2.99 in the App Store. And with that app, you get the shows Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And you also get a few extra video shows as well. So that's in the App Store and app for $2.99. And you can also support the show just by going to thepossibilitiesnetwork.com through donations. We have some partnerships with Audible and Screencasts Online. So a lot of other ways. If you just go to thepossibilitiesnetwork.com, you can check them all out there. So until the Monday, Tuesday episode next week, this is Tim chatting with the iPad Possibilities Podcast.